Hello, I'm William Gallagher and this is 58 Keys, which as always is for writers. Writers like you and me who use and who write on Macs and iPhones and iPads, but this month actually particularly specifically entirely about using all of those devices to write in Scrivener. So week one was about why authors and writers like Scrivener, plus actually why they don't. And then week two was about, well, kind of where you write. So on iPads as well as on Macs, and generally the kind of things that happen when you use Scrivener on more than one device at the same time. Two more, however many you've got. This, shockingly, is week three. You'd never guess that, which is a deeper dive into the kind of the extras in Scrivener, things that aren't exactly essential to your writing, but are really very, very good, including some pointed out by 58 Keys viewers and patrons. So thank you. And just let me say that next week's part 4, did you get that? Part 4 follows part 3. It's about how. It's a live edition about Scrivener going out on YouTube, first at 7 p.m. UK time on Wednesday, March 25, 2026. And of course, then a recording available afterwards. But it's specifically about questions you have concerning Scrivener and also answers that you have. I'm just going to basically sit here. Tips you've got. Let's spread them around. Please add to the questions and comments that are already in the first 3 video descriptions so that I can look informed. But now, for part 3, you and I, we're going to start with a mode change, a totally different way of writing in Scrivener, and actually we're going to end with another totally different way. In between, extra editing tips, importing from Word and the like, character sketches, word count, tasks, just so much. Starting with Typewriter Mode. Typewriter Mode was actually pointed out to me by Dan, who goes on YouTube as Dan8981, and graciously pretended to nod when I claimed I hadn't forgotten about that at all. I hadn't forgotten Typewriter Mode. No, I was saving it for part 3. In Scrivener on the Mac, click into a chapter to edit it and then go to the View menu. From there, go to Text Editing and then choose Typewriter Scrolling. Or skip all of that and just press Control Command T. What happens is that the line where your cursor is jumps up to the middle of the screen from wherever it was. Keep typing and then, you reach the end of the line and you keep going. Well, the line that you're on jumps up again. The screen jumps up again. The line that you are typing on right now is always the exact center line of the screen. If you learnt on typewriters as I did, I mean, this pinky can lift girders. Then, well, this was just how it was, wasn't it? That the paper would roll up, but your typing line was always in the same spot. And well, okay, I suppose there's a bit of nostalgia to that, but there's much more than that, because in all apps, all writing apps, I'll find I'm happily writing away, and then pretty quickly I get to the bottom of the screen and I stay there. I stay typing at the screen as the text goes up further. So my head starts fine, but then it's always down. Very unergonomic. Plus, there's just a few apps. I'll even find that tools towards the bottom of the screen get in the way of that great sentence I'm trying to write. Pages, for example, I mean, you can change this, but by default, if you turn on word count, it appears in this kind of lozenge-shaped blob at the foot of the screen, and I have been known to try to peer around it. To come back out of Typewriter Mode, should you wish to, then all you do is, well, you can go back to the View menu, you can go back to Text Editing, and you can now click to untick Typewriter Scrolling, or again, just repeat Control Command T. While we're here, while we're in the middle of a chapter on the screen, 58 Keys Patreon member Stuart Bilson told me about another editing feature, editing trick. Actually, patiently told me a second time after I had quite clearly forgotten to say it in week 1 of this Scrivener month. Do you see why we have to have part 4 together? Anyway, as Stuart says, if you click to select a chapter in Scrivener's binder, you can tap the space bar and that chapter will open up in a small little window, a separate little movable window. And that's very nice, isn't it? Because you can then drag that window around away from the rest of it. So maybe instead of a chapter, it could be some notes you're using. Is it your outline? I don't know, whatever you want. But what Stuart also pointed out, the reason he wanted to mention this was this is on top of Scrivener's other multi-chapter view. Do follow the link in the description to see this in more fully in week 1, but just very quickly, clicking on this icon above your chapter splits the screen into 2, and so you can have 2 views of the same chapter, and that's useful when it's a long one, or you can have 2 different chapters side by side for comparing them, which is just great. But now with this extra little panel, this window, you can actually have 3 chapters open in front of you at once, so you can see the whole arc of a character maybe. Something else that actually, let's not make this a running thing, I didn't forget this, but I think I barely considered, was the issue of templates in Scrivener. I talked about this so briefly. Pre-designed book layouts. I mean, practically every app has templates, you know, and I don't happen to ever use them. I need to write and then get my text, just the text, out to editors and publishers. I do not print anything out anymore, ever. I do not need fancy graphics and layouts, and actually, as an editor, when I receive pieces that are replete with templated graphics, well, let's just say I grumble creatively, because I've got to undo it all. None of that will ever go into the books or the magazines I produce. It's just the text. That's all I want. But I was wrong, I think, to ignore Scrivener's templates entirely, because while, yes, sure, there's all this nice formatting in there that is of no use to me, could be to you, but there are these other elements that I think might be very good for both of us. If you choose the blank template, as I always do, this is the first thing you see in Scrivener, and it is, you know, shockingly pretty blank. And look at the binder column to the side, there's very little in it. But let me just leave that up for a moment and now switch to showing you what a blank template, a template for Scrivener's, one of Scrivener's novels, for example. Template for writing a novel, boom. Look at the binder. Now you have all of these sections for the manuscripts you're writing, yes, but also a spot to make character notes or jot down details of locations. It's come with sections such as template sheets, which if you click on the disclosure triangle there and open up, you can see that they include things like a character sketch format. Copy that for any characters you want, any number of characters you want, fill it out as you need, as you choose. I happen to feel that if your novel doesn't convey a character to me, then, you know, as the reader, then you're having a note somewhere that says he or she is 5'4" and likes chocolate is of no help. But many authors do use this kind of character biography as their way in, as they work through thinking about the characters and the story. And I believe others use this type of thing to keep things consistent, so that, you know, this 5'4" chocolate lover is never accidentally referred to as 6'3" and allergic to cocoa or something. Consistency is all I ask. So this is another case where I think Scrivener actually becomes more and more useful as you write, as you write longer, as you get that novel down, and when you're thousands of words into the project. But sometimes, right? Well, you've written many thousands of words in another application. Google Docs is an obvious one. Apple Pages is great. Microsoft Word, if you must. Here is how to get those words into Scrivener so that you can then carry on wherever you want to get to, from wherever you get to in Scrivener. First, don't dismiss just copying and pasting. Whatever you have written in before, whatever application before Scrivener, you could just open the document in that app. You could press Command A to select all, and then Command C to copy, and then you could pop over to a blank document in Scrivener and press Command V. Excuse me, yeah, it's Command V, isn't it? To paste it all. Isn't it funny? You know it when it's hit the keys. It's likely to be a bit of a mess what pops in there, but you know, it could work. And while I think almost certainly you'd have to then go through entire manuscripts sorting out issues. You go line by line through the whole thing, looking for returns that look wrong or paragraphs that have run to whatever. You'd see it, you know it when you see it. Well, the thing is, you're a writer. You're going to be going through your entire manuscripts line by line anyway. Writers and masochists. There's a Venn diagram in that one somewhere. But okay, so copying and pasting, you call it a last resort, although, you know, as last resorts go, it's also quick. But what you can do instead is import your existing manuscript into Scrivener. So you're getting Scrivener to open the document, which is particularly useful if you don't have the original app anymore, but also have Scrivener figure out what to do with all that text instead of you later on. If you have written your manuscript in Microsoft Word, then first let me offer you my great sympathies, but next open Scrivener. I want to take you through this, in particular with Word. I want to take you the precise steps for Word, but don't zone out now if you happen to write in Google Docs or Apple Pages, because the only way Scrivener can import Pages or Google Docs is if you first convert them probably into Word format, maybe RTF. But in Pages, this is easy. File, export to Word, boom. I don't have to use Google Docs, but as best as I can see, you have to open your document. That's not a surprise. And then choose File, Download, and then choose Microsoft Word as the destination format. If you're using something else and there is no Word export option, well, yeah, RTF. Look for RTF, the rich text format option instead. That's surely going to be there, and that will work with Scrivener too. Now, you can import a document into an existing one. So you're 45,000 words into a novel, and then you remember a great prologue you wrote weeks ago that would be just right for this. You can import that prologue straight into your existing Scrivener manuscript, and then you can conclude that you're absolutely wrong. Prologues are always rubbish, and drag it to the bin. Assuming, though, that you are moving an entire manuscript over because you want to continue it in Scrivener from now on, then for Microsoft Word, what you should do is this. Open a new Scrivener document, blank or template, whatever. If you choose a blank one, be sure to select where it says draft up there. If you choose one of the templates, well, then be sure it's the same thing, different name. Click to select where it says manuscript. Because if you don't do this, you may end up not getting what you want, really. Maybe you happen to have last clicked on the research folder in the blank Scrivener document, or one of those template sheets ones. You know, that's where the cursor last is. If you've done anything like that, then when you import this Microsoft Word document, it doesn't bring in the text for you. It will save a copy of that .docx file in the research folder in the template one. So draft or manuscript, click to select, whichever you've got, and then click on choose the file menu, click on there and make a decision. You can just do File, Import, and then choose Files. And from there, you would pop off and find your Word document, you click the Import button, and then that text is brought in to Scrivener. But it is going to come in as one Scrivener chapter. And you can do something a little bit better with that. If your Word document is longer, if you've written it in chapters, well, then you can do this. Again, clicking on Draft and Manuscript to make sure it goes where you want. Again, choosing the File menu, and again, choosing Import. This time, you could instead choose Import and Split. Don't rush through this. I'm not saying you would, I just know I did. The top half right is so familiar. It's about finding and selecting your Word document. It's so easy to find, and then just boom, hit return, off it goes. That's exactly the same. It wasn't a straight import, but in fact, if you did that, that's what you get, no difference. But the bottom section, okay, that makes a difference. What it does is it offers you options for how Scrivener can try splitting up your Word document into chapters. You can tell it to do so either by the document's outline, if the Word document structure even has that, if you know how to do that in Word, or by chapter separators. So maybe you're one of these writers who separates sections of the novel with an asterisk every now and again. Confess to Scrivener that this is what you've done, and it will create a new chapter, a new section, if you like, a new bit in the binder within your document every single time it finds an asterisk. That may be a bad example. If you have a character who swears, for instance. Anyway. Writing, patronising alert, is one word after another. That's it. It's never anything more, right? And it's never anything less. I have learned to think about it in this way, though. I've learned to think in word counts. Well, somehow, most authors think in number of pages, and I just don't get it. When we wrote on typewriters, yeah, monospaced fixed fonts, then you could tell me you've written 10 pages today and I would know to be impressed. I'd know to understand. Now, you could have upped the count, could you? Font 256 point or something like that. No way to know. Whereas the number of words in a document is the number of words in a document. Actually, it isn't. Just as an aside, if you don't happen to know this, don't happen to come across this, every word processor counts words in different ways. If I said to you that the reasons for that are twofold, would you count twofold as a single word or two? And there is just surprising, I think, number of questions like that. And the short answer to it all is that every single software developer takes a stand, makes a decision on the answer and sticks with it forever, even if it's different to everybody else. But okay, that aside, roughly speaking, the word count is the word count. In Scrivener on the Mac, you can see the current word count at the foot of the screen. On the iPad, it's at the top. That count is the word count of the current chapter you're in. I regularly, though, need to know the word count for the whole book so far. And to do that, there are a few ways. The makers of Scrivener say that you can hover over the quick search bar and get it. But I tell you, I never can even find where that is. Maybe you can tell me in next week's thing. But this works. Click on draft or manuscript or the title of your book if you've changed the title somewhere. Click on the topmost icon in the binder. That's what I'm saying. You may then get a corkboard view of every chapter. But if you now click on the, it's called the Scrivenings icon. It's a great word. The first in this little trio. The corkboard changes to a text view of your entire book. And now the word count you can see is for the whole book. You can see more than the word count, just the count of words. And actually, you can see everything that Scrivener counts about your book by choosing the project menu and then project statistics. You get a table that, well, it takes a moment to appear, although actually there's an option at the bottom to do these statistics either accurately or estimate them faster. Yeah, whatever. Pick whichever one you like if you can be bothered. I do not see the point of an estimated word count. Why is that any use? But then I cannot see how my life is enriched by knowing how many paragraphs my writing is split into. Whereas, all right, no, I couldn't resist. I was going to try to segue there into something that does enrich my life, but yeah, okay, so that's pushing it. A statistic that is genuinely helpful. Let's go with that. And I think for you and me, maybe for most writers, choose the project menu and then show project targets. You get this dialog box. And there are a couple of things here that you can do, but the major one is to click underneath. You see where it says session targets under that label. Next to the word words, there's a number, it might be 0. Click in there and type a number. That is your target word count for today. As you work, you can reopen this dialog and see a blue thermometer progress bar filling out. As you work, you can choose to have it say you're done, or best of all, you can look up at the top of the screen every now and again. Where Scrivener shows you the current chapter title, it will also have a blue progress bar. Now, depending on what your target is, the bar may not really actually show anything visible. It may not show visible progress for ages, but it does show it. There's so much more you can do in this thing. You can set book word counts overall. You can set daily targets, but then say, no, I never write on Tuesdays. All sorts of things you can fiddle around in here. I think probably far too much choice, because you can just keep fiddling instead of writing, can't you? But if targets work for you, and there are times when they really help me, Scrivener is excellent on this. Two last things to show you, both reasonably quick, because I'm just going to gloss over them a bit. The first is the snapshot. So as well as constantly saving a document, Command S, the S key on my keyboard is always the first to wear out. You can tell Scrivener to take what it calls a snapshot. You can save, it's a save of your current document as it is right now. And the difference is that the snapshot is held inside Scrivener, inside your document. It's not some separate file saved out on your Mac. And the idea behind all of this is that this kind of protects the current state of your book, well, from you, really, from changes you make, from fiddles you make. So you've suddenly decided that Wilbur should first discover chocolate in the prologue. But then later on, you know, you come to your senses, you realize prologues are rubbish. So you move that scene to chapter 2. But then later on, you think, no, I was too hasty there. Deleting the prologue, yeah, not a good idea. And, you know, as wrong as you would be about that, you can call up the snapshot to get back anything that you've lost. At any point in any Scrivener document, you can click the Eye for Inspector icon, and from the panel that appears, find the camera icon, and now click the plus sign. You've saved a snapshot. Importantly, by default, right, what you've just done is saved a snapshot of the current chapter, which could often be what you want. You're concerned about changes you're thinking of making. To do the whole book, though, select everything in the binder from the top all the way down to just before the research folder, and then choose the Documents menu. Choose Documents, Snapshots, and then either of the top 2 options. The first one, take snapshots of selected documents. Well, it just does that, exactly that. Like you've gone through each one individually and snapshotted. Is that a verb? The second one, take title snapshots, asks you for a name first. So you could say first draft, for instance. And then later, you can go back through the same document snapshots menu and choose your snapshot. So in that case, you can see a name set. That could actually be quick and useful. Very last thing before week 4 and everything else that we can talk about there. I said that we were starting today, starting and ending with a mode change. I'm not sure that's the right description, but a different way of writing in Scrivener. And we did. We opened with the typewriter mode, in which, you know, that's something every word processor should have, but so few do. What we're going to close with is script writing. From Scrivener's templates, you can choose from, well, quite a few different script formats, script layouts. But then also actually inside any Scrivener document, you can choose on a whim to switch to script writing. I don't know why you would. I don't know why you'd have one chapter of prose and the next is script, but you can. I mean, you can switch between these two, prose and script, between every paragraph, if you like, by pressing Command 8. It's a toggle. Press it to go in, press it to come out again. I mean, if you don't happen to know, but you care, a difference between a novel and a script or a screenplay is actually the reader. With your novel, your reader is your audience, you to them, that's it. With a script, that final audience never sees a word you write. The script is the blueprint for the final film, the TV show, the radio play, the theatre play, and so on, which is actually why scripts have these specific formats. The document you write is there to help every person, every department in that whole process of bringing your story, your script to that final audience. So with Scrivener, as with all script writing software, really, you get scene headings that automatically format in a certain layout to save you having to remember margins and all this stuff. They also autocomplete regular terms, day, night, things you would use a lot. For speech, the character name is formatted, typically centered and capitalized. Directions or Rileys are in parentheses underneath, and then their actual dialogue is in a third block paragraph, all this stuff. Stuff that it'd be a real pain to switch between two manually. When I interviewed the makers of Scrivener a decade ago, I can't remember, they said that their app, they thought, was good for the first draft of a script. They recommended when you'd finish that draft, exporting it to final draft format and then continuing any second draft or any revision in that. I think they undersold their own app, at least a little bit. I have tried it. I've done complete scripts entirely in Scrivener before, and it works. But then there's also this. If you have final draft to switch to, well then, why, rather than starting your script in Scrivener and moving it over to final draft later, you would surely just write the whole thing in final draft, wouldn't you? I don't see a sense doing otherwise. Plus, of course, just as no publisher is using Scrivener, and they all they take it for granted you're going to deliver in Microsoft Word format. Well, so I doubt there's a production company in the world that uses Scrivener. It's possible that they may expect you to deliver in, say, final draft format, but at least until you're a bit down the way into production, a PDF would do fine, and Scrivener can export. Well, actually, can export to both final draft and PDF formats. I do actually like Scrivener's script writing mode. It is very similar to it's very similar to all of them, really, I suppose. But I have final drafts, so really, even though I have written a complete script, it was kind of just to play it out, trying it out. It's kind of seeing what it did. But then, you know, maybe that's the point, really. The ability for us to play around in this gorgeous script writing format with Scrivener, a tool that you might already have, and that if you don't, is dramatically cheaper than Final Draft or the like. You're a writer. You know structure. You can feel now, can't you, that you and I are coming to the end of this quite long video. And you're also a YouTube viewer, so you know I'm going to say something like subscribe, like, patronize, all of that. And actually, it really does help me. Plus, I can say I just love the Patreon group 58 Keys. But maybe now actually is an especially good time to subscribe, because this video, as I keep saying to you, is the third of 4 devoted entirely to Scrivener. And if you miss any of the others, well, I'd rather it's because you didn't fancy it than because YouTube didn't bother to tell you. So subscribe, click the bell thing, yeah, all of that. So thing is, with part 4, I need you to ask questions as well. Answering would be good. Do them both. And you'd be welcome to join 58's Patreon. We could just keep talking in so many other ways. But for now, just keep in mind that part 4 is this live YouTube special about how you and I use Scrivener, and that will be going out at 7 p.m. UK time on Wednesday, March 25, 2026. Recording will be available right afterwards, but that's when the liver thing is. If you're in the States, remember, clocks have changed recently, so please check what 7 p.m. UK time is. But that's it for now. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourself, eh? Write more, and I'll see you soon.